The Texas night of December 29, 1980 stretched out, a tapestry of inky blackness punctuated by distant, indifferent stars. Along a quiet, rural road, a car hummed, its headlights carving a tunnel through the vast darkness. Inside, a familiar warmth of friendship and family filled the small space. Betty Cash, a woman etched with the resilience of a working-class mother, drove with a steady hand, her thoughts likely drifting to her own daughter, though she wasn't with them tonight. Beside her sat Cash-Landrum, her kind-hearted friend, a single mother herself, whose gentle nature belied an inner strength. In the back seat, innocent and easily frightened, sat Colby Landrum, Vicky's young grandson, his eyes wide with the wonder and weariness of a child past his bedtime. Their lives, simple and interconnected, revolved around small comforts and shared moments, like this drive home after a pleasant dinner. Suddenly, a light pierced the oppressive darkness ahead, a beacon of blinding intensity. It seemed to materialize from nowhere, growing rapidly, swallowing the stars in its fierce luminescence. Initial confusion rippled through the car. Was it an approaching vehicle with its high beams on? No, this was different, too vast, too bright. A growing apprehension began to settle over them, tightening its grip as the light pulsed, defying any logical explanation. The object descended with an unnerving grace, transforming from a distant gleam into a massive diamond-shaped craft. It hovered low, directly over the road, its metallic surface reflecting the blinding light it emitted. An intense heat immediately radiated from it, pressing against the car, suffocating in its suddenness. Colby, his small face contorted with terror, began to whimper, burying his head against his grandmother. Betty's protective instincts flared, her grip tightening on the steering wheel, her gaze fixed on the impossible sight before them. Vicky, initially awestruck by the sheer spectacle, felt her wonder curdle into raw fear as the heat intensified, becoming almost unbearable. The car became an oven, the air inside growing thick and scalding. They were forced to stop, the heat so oppressive that remaining in the vehicle felt like a slow incineration. Betty, despite the palpable danger, felt an undeniable pull, a desperate need to understand what they were witnessing. She stepped out, the air around her shimmering with heat, her hand instinctively shielding her eyes. The craft, impossibly close, began to emit flames or exhaust from its underside, further amplifying the inferno. Then, out of the darkness, mysterious helicopters appeared, seemingly from nowhere. They surrounded the diamond-shaped object, observing it with an almost militaristic precision, their rotors beating a rhythmic, ominous pulse against the night. As abruptly as it had descended, the object ascended, soaring into the night sky, the helicopters following in its wake like loyal metallic guardians. The immediate relief from the heat was profound, yet it was short-lived. A chilling unease settled upon them. Betty's skin began to prickle, then blister, an alarming redness spreading across her face and hands. Her hair, once thick and dark, felt brittle, strands beginning to fall away with each touch. Vicky and Colby, too, showed signs of exposure, nausea, a burning irritation in their eyes, and a profound fatigue that seeped into their very bones. A dawning realization, cold and terrifying, crept into their minds. Something was terribly wrong. Their worsening condition, the unexplained pain and alarming physical changes, soon forced them to seek medical attention. Doctors, bewildered by their symptoms, found themselves without answers. The burns resembled radiation exposure, yet there was no logical source. Ignorance and disbelief from the medical professionals only deepened the family's fear, their health deteriorating rapidly without any explanation or effective treatment. Who or what was responsible for their suffering, and why were they alone in facing this unknown threat? Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you are watching from. The severity of their symptoms quickly became undeniable, escalating beyond mere discomfort into a full-blown medical crisis. Betty's body, once robust, was now a landscape of severe burns, her skin peeling, her hair falling out in clumps, leaving raw, tender patches. Her vision blurred, her eyes constantly watering and aching, as if scorched from within. Internally, her organs were struggling, a cascade of unexplained issues baffling the medical staff. Each day brought a new agony, a fresh wave of pain that racked her entire being. She endured countless agonizing treatments, her body ravaged, but her spirit, though battered, clung to a fierce determination to survive. Vicky and Colby, though spared the extreme burns Betty suffered, were not immune. They developed chronic illnesses, persistent nausea, debilitating headaches, and a profound fatigue that seeped into their bones, robbing them of their former vitality. Colby, in particular, struggled with vision problems and a pervasive anxiety that overshadowed his childhood. Their lives, once ordinary, were now permanently altered, defined by constant discomfort and the haunting memory of that night. The financial burden of medical bills mounted relentlessly, a crushing weight that threatened to pull them under, pushing them to their absolute limits as they sought answers and relief. Their harrowing story, a bizarre tale of a hovering diamond-shaped craft and military helicopters, soon garnered local media attention. News reports highlighted their inexplicable injuries and the baffling lack of explanation from authorities. Yet, despite the public interest, official channels remained stubbornly silent, offering no comment or assistance. The vivid memory of those military-grade helicopters, hovering with calculated precision around the unidentified object, fueled a growing suspicion within Betty and Vicky. They were convinced with an unwavering certainty that the government was involved, that it knew precisely what had happened to them. Their initial desperate attempts to gain help, or even just an explanation, were met with cold dismissals and outright denials, deepening their sense of betrayal and isolation. Driven by an unyielding desire for justice and a desperate need for compensation to cover their spiraling medical costs, Betty and Vicky made the momentous decision to sue the U.S. government. It was an audacious move, a David and Goliath battle that few believed they could win. Their lawyer, a man of quiet determination, understood the uphill battle ahead but was committed to their cause. He began the painstaking process of gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and compiling a case against an entity notorious for its impenetrable secrecy. Slowly, glimmers of hope emerged as testimonies from others who claimed to have seen similar phenomena or the same distinctive helicopters that night began to surface, corroborating parts of their incredible story. However, the government's official stance remained unyielding, absolute denial. They claimed no knowledge, no involvement, no responsibility for the incident or the injuries sustained. Their defense strategy quickly became apparent: to discredit the witnesses, to suggest mass hysteria, misidentification, or even fabrication. The emotional toll of being disbelieved, of being painted as delusional, was immense. Betty, Vicky, and Colby found themselves fighting not just for their health and financial stability, but for their very credibility, battling an invisible enemy that wielded the power of official silence and public doubt. The fight against such a formidable, faceless adversary was draining both physically and psychologically. As the legal battle dragged on, hope began to fray. Key pieces of evidence crucial to their case mysteriously vanished or were deemed classified. Helicopter logs that might confirm military presence that night were nowhere to be found, or if they existed, were inaccessible. Pilot testimonies that could shed light on the events remained elusive. The legal process designed to seek truth instead became a labyrinth of bureaucratic obstacles and stonewalling. Each setback chipped away at their resolve, draining their already limited resources and spirits. The crushing realization that they might never truly get the truth, or the justice they so desperately sought, began to settle in. As the court case faltered, would Betty and Vicky ever truly find redemption, or would their fight be in vain against an impenetrable wall of secrecy? The courtroom, a sterile arena of legal battles, delivered its crushing verdict. The judge, his voice devoid of emotion, ruled against Cash-Landrum, citing insufficient evidence to definitively link the U.S. government to the incident. It was a devastating blow, a public declaration that their suffering, in the eyes of the law, was their own to bear. Yet even in this profound defeat there was no surrender. Their resolve, though tested to its limits, remained unyielding. Their belief in what they had seen, in the harrowing truth of that night, was unshaken by any judicial pronouncement. Life after the lawsuit was a relentless continuation of their ordeal. Betty's health, a fragile vessel constantly battling against unseen forces, continued its slow, agonizing decline. Her body, already ravaged by the initial exposure, never fully recovered. Each day brought new pains, new complications, a constant reminder of the night that had stolen her vitality. Vicky and Colby, though spared some of Betty's more severe symptoms, lived with their own chronic pain and an ever-present undercurrent of fear. The memory of the diamond-shaped craft, the intense heat, the ominous helicopters, was etched into their minds, forever marking them. Despite the judgment, despite the ridicule and disbelief, they steadfastly refused to retract their story, their voices unwavering in their testimony. The Cash-Landrum case, despite its legal failure, transcended the courtroom to become a landmark in the annals of UFO lore. It stood as a potent symbol of government secrecy, a chilling narrative of ordinary citizens allegedly harmed by an unknown phenomenon, then seemingly abandoned and denied by the very institutions meant to protect them. Ufologists and independent investigators, drawn by the compelling and tragic details, continued to scrutinize the evidence, meticulously dissecting official narratives and unearthing inconsistencies. Their story resonated deeply with countless others who felt marginalized, disbelieved, or wronged by authority, finding in Betty, Vicky, and Colby a reflection of their own struggles against opaque systems. Betty Cash, the resilient mother who had dared to challenge a superpower, spent her final years battling the relentless physical and emotional toll of that night. Her courage in speaking out, in facing down ridicule and the debilitating effects of her illness, inspired a quiet legion of supporters. On December 29, 1998, exactly 18 years to the day after the incident, Betty Cash passed away. Her death certificate, after years of medical ambiguity, attributed her demise to complications stemming from the original exposure, a final, poignant validation of her ordeal for many who believed her. She became, in the eyes of those who championed her cause, a martyr to an unresolved truth, a testament to the human cost of unexplained phenomena. Vicky and Colby, though scarred by their own ongoing health battles and the profound loss of Betty, continued to carry the torch. Their unwavering testimony, their willingness to relive the trauma repeatedly, kept the case alive, preventing it from fading into obscurity. They shared their experience with anyone who would listen, from television crews to researchers, their voices a constant echo of that fateful Texas night. A quiet, persistent hope flickered within them, that one day, the full truth, unvarnished and undeniable, would finally be revealed, bringing closure not just for them, but for Betty's enduring legacy. The Cash-Landrum incident remains officially unsolved, a haunting testament to the unknown. It stands as a profound marker of the impact such an encounter can have on human lives, forever caught between two worlds, the mundane reality they once knew and the inexplicable trauma that altered their very existence. It forces a reflection on the nature of truth itself, the often elusive concept of government transparency, and the immense, immeasurable human cost exacted by unexplained phenomena. The questions linger, echoing through the decades. What truly happened that night on the rural Texas road? And why, after all these years, does the silence persist?